welcome to another Millennial Minute. I'm Julia Sun. As a kid back in the 90s, or for you, early 2000s, we all remember the ads that would play while we watched TV. They were practically ingrained in our memory until we couldn't stand to live without that new toy or game, and we would keep asking our parents until they got it for us. Kids are just impressionable, making them easy targets for advertisers. So we asked the question, should advertising to kids be banned? You already heard from our guest, friend of the show, and a co-founder of themoms.com, Denise Albert, and joining her is Nate Hochman, conservative writer and contributor to Young Voices. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Look, I just think we can't escape advertising anymore, period, because we live with this thing called the internet. How much do you guys think these ads affect kids? You're a mom, Denise. I'll start with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually asked my 12-year-old son this morning about this very question. My older son tells me every time he's 16 when he gets a DM from a brand, and he at first gets excited because he thinks he's special and that they actually want to collab with him. And then I have to explain to him, no, they're actually targeting you. So, that is not okay. And I believe that crosses the line of any advertiser and marketer. My younger son said that he doesn't see any ads other than brands that are targeted because he might have looked up, a sports team. So he might get ads from sports programs and from athletic wear and things like that. It doesn't bother him. And I've asked him the question in many, many different ways to see if he is getting inappropriately targeted. So, I think that's one part of it. Maybe he hasn't reached the age yet where he's being specifically targeted, but clearly they do have his information because they know who to target in certain ways. So it's a tricky question. I think our perspectives are not that different. I think we are both saying sort of the same thing in different ways, that it needs to be regulated and there have to be limits, I think, in the same way. But it's a very tough task with so many different platforms online right now.
Yeah, definitely a tough task. Nate, look, you seem to agree there needs to be some kind of ban, but not everything. Then how would a ban on ads work? How would it look like for kids?
Yeah, well, Denise is exactly right that it's very difficult and the devils are in the details. So like she said, I think we broadly agree that something needs to be done, but that it's also impractical and sort of absurd to say that, we should completely ban any advertising to children in any instance. That's just not going to happen in the 21st century where everything is done through the internet. Right? We know from the battles over big tech the last few years, regulating the internet is really, really tricky. It's not like regulating the airwaves of the radio and the television. It's a completely different beast. But with that being said, we also know that there is a real urgency to this issue, and something does need to be done, and it needs to be done yesterday. Like I mentioned in my opening statement, my generation is in a really bad way. We have levels of anxiety and depression and suicide and suicidal tendencies that doctors have never seen before. We have record levels of kids my age on antidepressants, and this is clearly the direct result of kids living their lives online. And, kids like Denise's son and like my own experience who are constantly getting barraged with messages from advertisers telling them to buy this and to do that and that, they need to conform to a certain beauty standard and all the things that we've heard talked about before. And both the leaders of our cultural institutions and our policymakers have really just kind of been tuned out from this issue and have just not really been paying attention to it. Or they've just sort of brushed it off and said, well, that's an issue for the parents to take care of, right? Clearly, it's not an issue that parents are able to take care of because of the record levels of anxiety and depression in my generation. There needs to be a comprehensive renewal of a sense of the fact that it takes a village to raise a child and that we as a society have a collective common good that we are invested in terms of making our society a place where children can have healthy, sustainable childhoods again. And that's something that I think people of every political disposition, progressive, conservative, left, right, can agree on broadly. And we can build a really broad coalition. These are common sense things that 80% of Americans can agree on to do something about this.
Yeah, look, Denise, the experience your son had, I would say they're not unique to kids. I'm an adult. I get targeted all the time. I have friends texting me, oh my God, somebody else had this wonderful purse I don't have. Maybe I should get it. Should we worry about how ads affect adults as well?
I mean, that's a great question. I think we have some more tools, right, than our kids do. I think it's a distraction, and it is tough for all of us. It's a time suck. But again, I think it's how much time do you want to spend online, and you have to know that within that time you are going to get ads. Now, the beauty of today is where at one point when we were kids and watching commercials, we weren't able to fast forward it. Now you can fast forward things and you can cut out the commercials from your life. And there is beauty in that online too. You can just exit it out sometimes. So as an adult, we have the ability to make those choices to what we want to see and what we don't.
Okay. And Nate, you're a millennial, right? I take it
Gen Z, actually.
Gen Z. Oh my God, excuse me. For your generation, for your generation, I'm a millennial. For your generation, who's just becoming adults, to cope with that anxiety, which is really high level right now, and it's bothering everybody, what do you want to be done specifically?
Well, I mean, I would like to see sort of creative policymaking at both the national and the state level to really become more invested in thinking about, specifically for children, not exclusively, but specifically for children, how we think about social media and how it should interact. Utah just passed a law that it has to be signed into law by the governor, I think, but the legislature passed it, that would put a child lock on all phones that are sold in Utah, where children could not access hardcore pornography on the phones, and they would actually have to have an adult go in and turn off the child lock to be able to access that function. So it's not banning porn from the phone completely. If you're an adult, you can still access it. But one of the most disturbing statistics that always really rocks me is the fact that as a child in America today, children who are born today are more likely than not to see hardcore pornography before they hit puberty, because it's so profligate on the internet, right? That's really disturbing. That is a question for policymakers to address. And little fixes where it's not totalitarian, it's not a nanny state. If you're an adult, you can still access pornography if you'd like to, although I think you shouldn't. It is a child lock for children. Things like that and little protections that are built into the phones. We can preserve liberty. We can protect people's rights to do what they want. But we can also understand that children are not fully capable, self-governing, Lockean individuals, and they don't have the same sort of rights that adults do, and that their government has a vested interest in protecting them from things like internet porn.
But until
I find it.
parents
Go ahead.
really need to do their job, and phones have made it very easy to protect your children in that way. So until those regulations or laws are signed in, it's the parents really need to be a part of their children's lives in that way.
Yeah, I agree. And Nate, I just find it interesting that you call yourself a conservative writer. You're obviously pro-capitalism, and then you still think some kind of ban should be imposed. All right, well, we're out of time. Thank you both for joining us. It's great to have both of you, and thank you for watching Millennial Minute. I'm Julia Sun. I'll see you next time.